US 52. Yeah. Alright. This is my first video back after being off for basically a month and a half. So, I actually had US 52 planned on my agenda for a while now, but I wasn't able to get around to it because I had to take that month and a half break to focus on some personal stuff. I'm finally back and we're going to be doing US 52. US 52 was actually requested by Aaron Edwards 8532 back in all the way in July, so thanks to him for suggesting this highway, and let's get started. So as you can see here, US 52 goes in a kind of a northwest southeastern direction, and we're going to be starting all the way down here in Charleston, South Carolina, and going up to the North Dakota-Canada border near Minot, North Dakota. So let's get started with Westbound US 52. So we start all the way down here in Charleston, South Carolina at the small intersection where you have the option to turn onto US 52, or you can stay straight and head to Interstate 26 and US 78. So if you choose to turn on US 52, you have two reassurance shields. This small one hanging on a pole here, or this huge one telling you that you're on US 52. So our first major intersection after leaving that other intersection, we have Interstate 26, and 26 is signed west for Columbia, while 52 is just signed west to Rivers Avenue. And shortly after meeting Interstate 26, we're now meeting US Highway 78, and US Highway 78 and 52 are going to be concurrent as we head through North Charleston and out of Charleston itself. In fact, we have our reassurance shield at this intersection here, and US 52 and 70 are definitely concurrent with each other. Here are meeting Interstate 526, which is signed east for Mount Pleasant and west for Savannah. And here is US 78 leaving US 52, and US 52 is signed west for Goose Creek and Monk's Corner, while US 78 is signed west to Somerville. Here are in Goose Creek, and we're meeting US Highway 176. And surprisingly, this is also known as the Joe Danny intersection. So, after passing by US 176, we have our first weird odd mileage sign, which Monk's Corner is 15 miles away and Cypress Gardens is 10. After going through Monk's Corner, we have another mileage sign, which has our first mention of Florence, which is 77 miles away. On our way to Florence, we meet US Highway 521, which 521 is a orphan child route of US 21, and 521 takes you to Interstate 95 and Sumter, South Carolina, while 52 is still signed north for Florence and King Street. Here we are still on our way to Florence, we meet US 378, and 378 is signed east for Conway and west for Sumter. Here we are meeting US 301, and 301 and 52 are going to be current as we head to Florence. Here is US 301 leaving US 52 as we're about to enter into Florence, and US 52 heads into Florence while 301 is a bypass around Florence. Here in Florence we're meeting US 76, and US 52 is now signed north for Darlington, while US 76 is signed for Marion and Florence Airport and a university. Here we're meeting Interstate 95 down here in Florence, and 95 is signed north for Fayetteville and south for Savannah. And on 95 itself, US 52 is signed for Florence and Darlington. And here in Darlington, we're meeting US 401, and US 52 and 401 are being concurrent with each other. I'm going to be skipping the 401 and 52 concurrency because I already did that in my 401 video. And if you'd like to see that here, it's in the top right corner. Here is US 52 leaving from 401 in Society Hill to head northwest to North Carolina. Here we're meeting US 1, and US 1 and 52 are going to be concurrent with each other. And here's US 1 leaving US 52, and US 52 is now heading north to North Carolina by itself, while US 1 is also heading in a different direction. So and then here's our first mileage after US 51 US 1 leaves, and US 52 is signed for Wadesboro, which is 22 miles away, and Salisbury, which is 83. Here we are entering into the state of North Carolina. I hope this goes well. And our first major intersection in North Carolina is US Highway 74, and US 74 and 52 are going to be concurrent as we go through the western Wadesboro. Here is US 52 leaving US 74 as US 74 heads west to Charlotte, while 52 and North Carolina Highway 742 heads northwest to Salisbury. On our way to Salisbury, we meet North Carolina's longest state highway, North Carolina Highway 24, and we also meet North Carolina Highway 27, two very major important state highways here in the state. Here in Salisbury, we meet Interstate 85, and US 52 is going to be concurrent with 85 North, and they're both signed for Lexington, while 85 is signed south for Charlotte, which is definitely correct. Here's US 52 leaving Interstate 85 to join the brand new 285, and we're still signed north for Lexington, and Winston-Salem gets a mention. Woo. And shortly after we leave Interstate 85, we have exit for US 64, which is signed east for Lexington, and west for Mocksville. I also made a US 64 video, and if you'd like to see the playlist here, because I split it up in east and west, the playlist is here in the top right corner. Here, so 20 miles up the road, we're now meeting Interstate 40, and Interstate 40 is signed east for Greensboro, while 40 is signed west for Statesville. That should not be Statesville. It should definitely be Asheville. Also, it looks like we're gaining a peek view of the Winston-Salem skyline over here. That's cool. On our way into downtown Winston-Salem, we're meeting US Highway 158 and US Highway 421, which is just signed northwest for the Salem Parkway, and US 158 and 421 actually gets a control city for south and southeast bound, which is Kernersville. Kernersville is where US 421 goes, but there's also should be something for US 58 or 158. Maybe like something like Reedsville or Stokesdale. Come on, you gotta give US 158 some love. Also, I did make a US 158 video, and if you'd like to see that, it's in the top right corner here. So after meeting US 158 and US 421, we meet US 311, which is an alternate route of US 11, and it takes you to downtown Winston-Salem, which is cool. And since US 52 is a freeway north of Winston-Salem, we at random interchanges, US 52 is signed north for Pilot Mountain. Why Pilot Mountain? Pilot Mountain's like a small town. Also, that should be Mount Airy. But at another random intersection or interchange, we now have Mount Airy with signed north for 52, which is definitely correct. Here we are our mileage sign. Pilot Mountain is 4 miles away, which is our secondary, which actually should be good. And then Mount Airy is only 10 miles up the road from Pilot Mountain. Before we get into Mount Airy, Interstate 74 is leaving to head northwest to Wytheville, while 52 is signed north for Mount Airy. Shortly after leaving Interstate 74, we enter into the town of Mount Airy. Does anyone know what Mount Airy is famous for? That's right, it's the Andy Griffith Show and Andy Griffith. So here at this stoplight, you actually have the option to stay on mainline US 52 or turn on US 52 business to go to Mount Airy and visit the Mayberry attractions. So here's one attraction, the Andy Griffith Playhouse. Here's a couple other attractions here in downtown Mount Airy, and it looks like they have a cop car from the show, which I'm guessing that you get to ride in for like a small fee during the festival when they have an Andy Griffith Show festival here in Mount Airy. I don't know when it is, but I know they have one, which is cool in my opinion. I should definitely check it out one day. Maybe you guys should too. And shortly later, we're reuniting with mainline US 52 to head north to Hillsville. And after going through Mount Airy, we have a mileage sign. Hillsville is 18 miles away. And here we are entering into the state of Virginia. Shortly after entering into Virginia, we meet the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we get our first mileage sign literally right after that intersection. And the weird thing about Virginia is they love to sign 3 towns that the highway goes through, because I lived in Virginia for 2.5 years. I always saw the Virginia Highway 3 sign, and that mileage sign always had 3 towns that Virginia Highway 3 goes through. In this case, we have US 52. US 52 goes through Hillsville, which is 9 miles away, and Fort Chiswell, 29 miles away, and Wytheville is 38. Here in Hillsville, we're meeting US 58, which US 58 takes you to Interstate 77, but we're going to be staying on US 52. Here, meeting US 58 Shield again. We're also meeting US 221, and look at those cool signs. I wonder if they're like some old-timey signs, or did just the backs fall off. But those signs look pretty cool. Also, there's a Pizza Hut here too, and a mention of Interstate 77. So after going through Hillsville, we get another mileage sign, and Fort Chiswell and Wytheville are still signed on the sign. As on our way to Fort Chiswell, we're passing right under Interstate 77, and that scenery just looks so cool. And here in Fort Chiswell, we're going to be joining with Interstate 77 and Interstate 81 and US 11 to form the most famous wrong way concurrency. And this actually brings us right into a brand new segment I like to call on, Hey, I know that highway. We're going to be talking about US Highway 11. US Highway 11 is 1,645 miles long. As you can see here, it runs on this map, it runs all the way from New Orleans all the way up to the New York and Canada border, going through several states including Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New York. It's also one of 9 US highways that is split into 2 different parts, like an E, a west, or north and a south. And also, it mainly parallels the Interstates 59, 75, and 81. US 11 also has 2 child routes, US 411 and US 311. And that's a little bit about US 11. I hope you enjoyed that segment. And now we're back on US 52. Here is Interstate 77 splitting off from US 52 and US 81, or Interstate 81, and 77 is signed north for Bluefield and Charleston, West Virginia. Well, we just get control city for 81 south, which is Bristol. Here is US 52 splitting off from Interstate 81. We're now going to be joining with, we're going to be meeting the northern end of US 21. Which used to parallel Interstate 77, but got truncated just to Wytheville. And on that exit, we actually have a Sheets here, and I'm going to be right back as I go grab a drink. So just sit here while I grab one. Guys, I'm back and I'm ready to continue the rest of this video. I actually got myself a brand new Mountain Dew because I knew where it was. So let's get started back onto the highway. So shortly after we leave Interstate 81, US 52 is now signed north for Bland, Bluefield, and the West Virginia Turnpike, which is very odd. And 12 miles up the road, we're meeting the Big Walker Lookout, which is most famous known for it's this 100-foot tower. And apparently at the top of this tower, you can see beautiful views of 5 different states. I'd love to go here to try out that observation tower and to check out the country store. So after ascending down the mountain, we have our first major intersection with Interstate 77. And 77 is signed north for Bluefield and south for Wytheville. And here are meeting Interstate 77 again, here in the Appalachian Mountains. and 77 is still signed south for Wytheville. And here we are actually joining on to Interstate 77 and US Interstate 7752 are to be current as we go through into West Virginia. In fact, here our very first exit in West Virginia, US 52 is signed north for Bluefield, while 77 is signed north for Beckley? I know is where you mean Interstate 64, but that should be Charleston, not Beckley. Here in Bluefield, we're meeting US Highway 460. We're going to be concurrent with we're going to be joining 460 for a brief time going through Bluefield. Here is US 52 splitting off from 460, and US 52 is going to be going into downtown Bluefield. Here you are meeting US Highway 19, and US 19 and 52 are going to be concurrent for a small time. In fact, here is US 52 leaving US 19, and US 19 is going into Bluefield, Virginia. Also, US 19 is another highway that is split into two different parts, so it's... And our first mileage sign still here in Bluefield, where we have Bramwell, which is 16 miles away, and Welch, 30. Here we are in Welch, and we have another mileage sign, and we have Ford 13 miles away. I'm not going to pronounce that, which is 15 miles away, and Williamson being 63. Here in Williamson, we're actually meeting US 119, and US 119 and US 52 are going to be concurrent for a while. And since this intersection is right at the Virginia and West Virginia border, we actually have a Welcome to West Virginia sign, which is pretty cool. Here, and since US 119 and 52 are actually paralleling the Kentucky and West Virginia border, we actually enter into Kentucky for a small time. And then here we are entering right back into West Virginia, and we're going to be staying in West Virginia for the rest of the route. Here, in fact, US 119 is now splitting off from US 52, and US 119 heads north to Logan, while 52 heads north to Huntington, which is definitely correct. Here, in fact, we have another mileage sign. We have Kermit, which is 11 miles away, and Huntington is 64. Here in the Huntington area, we're meeting Interstate 64, and we're going to be concurrent with 64 east for about like 5 miles. In fact, here's the exit where US 52 leaves off from Interstate 64, and Interstate 64 is signed east for Huntington and Charleston, while US 52 is signed north for West Huntington and Ironton, Ohio. Here are meeting US 60 here in Huntington, and US 52 is signed north for Ironton, Ohio. In fact, here we are crossing the Ohio River into Ohio. And here we are meeting Ohio Highway 7, and US 52 is now signed west for Ironton. Here in Ironton, we're meeting Ohio Highway 93, and on Highway 93 itself, US 52 is signed east for Portsmouth, Ohio, which is 29 miles away. Here in Portsmouth, Ohio, we're meeting US Highway 23, which actually takes you right over the river into Ashland, Kentucky. So if you want to take 23 south into Ashland, I would recommend doing it here. And this is at another random intersection here in Portsmouth. US 52 is now signed west for Cincinnati. Here in Aberdeen, on our way to Cincinnati, we meet US Highway 62 and US 68. And US 68 and 62 are concurrent with us to Ripley. In fact, here is US 68, and now we're going to be concurrent with 68 and 62. Here is US 62 and 68 leaving US Highway 52 and here in Ripley, and US 52 continues northwest to Cincinnati. In fact, we have another mileage sign right after 62 and 68 leaves, and US 62 is, and it's signed for Higginsport, which is 7 miles away, and Cincinnati is only at 52. Here are meeting the Interstate 275 here in Cincinnati. We're going to be joining with Interstate 275 west to head to Kentucky and Cincinnati. 275 is signed east to Columbus. In fact, now we're splitting off from Interstate 275, and US 52 is just signed west for Kellogg Avenue. Here we are, we're passing right right under Interstate 71 and 75, which we have no access to, which is sad. And here we are passing right beside the Cincinnati Reds Stadium and the Cincinnati Bengals Stadium. Right, actually really close to each other. I hope the kitty goes meow for Cincinnati, but it looks like right now they're not doing so well. So before we enter downtown Cincinnati, we're actually meeting US Highway 27, US 42, and US 127. And we're going to be having a quadplex of highways as we go through downtown Cincy. In fact, now we're meeting US Highway 50, which takes you to Interstate 75. And Highway 42 leaves the triplex of highways, and we're still heading north to Interstate 75. So now we're going to be joining with Interstate 75 to head northwest to Interstate 74. And here we are joining Interstate 74, and now US Highway 27 is leaving 74 and 52, and now we're signed west for Indianapolis. Welcome to Indiana, and here's US 52 leaving Interstate 74 to head west to Brookville and West Harrison. And after we have a mileage sign right after we leave Interstate 74, and Cedar Grove is 7 miles away, Brookville is 13. Here are meeting Indiana Highway State 1, and Highway State 1 is going to actually be concurrent with those two. Brookville, Indiana. Here is US 52 splitting off from Indiana Highway 1, and 52 is now going to be heading west to Rushville. In fact, we have a mileage sign which mentions Rushville, which is 30 miles away. Here in Rushville, we're actually meeting Indiana Highway 44 and Indiana Highway 3, while 52 is going to continue west to Indianapolis. Here in Indianapolis, we're going to be joining Interstate 465, and here are meeting Interstate 70 and US 40. And we're now meeting Interstate 69, the northern part of Interstate 69, which is signed north for Fort Wayne. And here are meeting US Highway 421 all the way up here in Indianapolis. Yes, here we are splitting off from 465, and we have no mention of US 52. Instead, we just get a mention of 865 to Interstate 65 north for Chicago, which is actually, I think, is a good choice. But now we merge into Interstate 65, and 65 and 52 is signed northwest for Chicago. Here's US 52 splitting off from 65, and we get no control city, while 65 is still signed north for Chicago. Oh, so we get a mileage sign right after, and and we get a mention of Lafayette, Indiana, which is 27 miles away, and Fowler is 57. Here are meeting the most desolate Dairy Queen ever. And here we are in just outside of Lafayette. We're going to be now turning right at the stoplight. And now US 231 is joining the party, and US 231 and 52 are going to be concurrent going through West Lafayette. Well, here's the most old way to pronounce that you're at a university. Welcome to Purdue. And here's US 231 splitting off from US 52. And fun fact, the alignment of US 231 used to actually be old US Highway 152, but US 152 only lasted for like 4 years in the 1930s, and it was decommissioned into US Highway 231. But we're still staying on US 52. Maybe I'll do a US 231 video someday, but not right now. And after leaving that area, we have another mileage sign. Alter Bean is 44 miles away, and Fowler is 20. And here in Fowler, there is no good picture because apparently Google Street View has not reached Fowler yet, or hasn't reached Fowler since 2008. So, but we have a sign here. Lafayette is west and Kentland is east. But this is the real reason why Kentland was signed, because US 52 joins US 41 outside of Fowler. Here in Kentland, US 52 leaves US 41 and now joins US Highway 24 to enter into Illinois. Here we are entering into the Illinois, or here's the Illinois state line. And here's US 52 leaving US 24 to head northwest to Joliet and the Chicagoland. Now we have a mileage sign. Illinois Highway 49 is 7 miles away and Kankakee is 23. And now we're joining US Highway 45, and US 45 and 42 are going to be concurrent as we head towards Kankakee. Here we are in the Kankakee area. We're meeting Interstate 57, which is signed south for Champaign and north for Chicago. And sign I couldn't find on US 45 and 52, so I just looked at this stoplight here, and both 45 and 52 are now signed for Joliet, which is definitely the correct choice. Here is US 45 splitting out from 52, and 52 is going to be still heading towards Joliet, while 45 is going to actually be heading into Chicago itself. And here are joining Illinois Highway 53, and US 52 is actually joining Highway 53. And we're now meeting Interstate 80, and Interstate 80 is signed west for Moline and Rock Island, while I'm guessing 80 East is just signed for Indiana. Here are meeting US Highway 6, and US 52 is going to be joining US 6 and leaving Illinois Highway 53. And here is US 6 leaving 52, and 52 is going to continue straight from this intersection. And here we are still in Joliet, and this is this road here, Essington Road, is a very important road to me because this is the road I take to get to my grandfather's house who lives in Joliet. So from this point up until Interstate 55 is the 1.5 miles of US 52 I've been on. Now we're meeting Interstate 55, and 55 is signed north for Chicago, while 55 south is signed for Bloomington Normal. And here we're meeting Illinois Highway 59, which is a very important route here in the Chicagoland area. Here we're meeting Interstate 39 and US Highway 51 out in the middle of nowhere of Illinois. And here in Mendota, we're meeting US Highway 34, and US 52 is going to be heading straight here. Now we're meeting US 30 and US 52 at this weird stop sign intersection in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And now US 30 itself, US 52 is signed northwest for Dixon. Here, we have no access to Interstate 88, sadly. Here in Dixon, we're meeting Illinois Highway 26, and if you want to get to Interstate 88, you would take 26 to do so. But we're going to be taking 52 west. Here, still in Dixon, we're meeting Illinois Highway 2, and 52 and 26 is now signed for Savannah and Freeport. In fact, we have a mileage sign after we leave Dixon. Pueblo is 12 miles away, Freeport is 36, and Savannah is 48. Here is US 52 leaving from Illinois Highway 84, and 52 and 64 are going to be current as we cross the Mississippi River. Here we are crossing the Mississippi River into Iowa, and our first major intersection in Iowa is US 67, and US 52 is going to be heading north to Dubuque. In fact, we have a mileage sign right at that intersection, and US 52 is signed for Bellevue 20 miles away, and Dubuque 44. Here in Dubuque, we're actually meeting US 61 and 151, and US 61 and 152 is actually being current with those two highways going the other direction, not away from Dubuque. Here's US 52 leaving from 61 and 151, and we have a mileage sign right after that intersection. Dubuque is 8 miles away, and Dyersville is 25. Here we are meeting US 20, and US 20 is heading east to Dubuque, and 20 and 52 have no control cities going west. Here is US 52 leaving from US 20, and it's signed for Dyersville and Cascade. And here at Dyersville, we have two hot things. Here we have this National Farm Toy Museum, so you get to learn about farm toys. And the other thing that Dyersville is most famously known for is the Field of Dreams movie site, where the movie Field of Dreams takes place. That's cool. I've seen Field of Dreams, but it's been a while since I last saw it, so I definitely know the movie. So after leaving Dyersville, we have another mileage sign, New Vienna, which is 4 miles away, and Gutenberg is 22. And here in Gutenberg, we actually have a nice scenic view of the Mississippi River. We have another mileage sign, and we have Rochester on the sign, which is very cool. Here remaining US Highway 18 and US 18 and 52 are going to be current for each other with it. And here's US 52 leaving US 18, and US 52 heads north into Minnesota. In fact, we have Castalia 5 miles away and Kalmar 17. And after going through Kalmar, we have another mileage sign, and Rochester is still on the bottom line, which is very good. Here we are entering into Minnesota, and we don't have a welcome to Minnesota sign. In our first mileage sign in Minnesota, we have Preston on the bottom line. And we get another mileage sign after going through Preston, and Rochester returns, so yay! Here we are in the Rochester area, remaining Interstate 90 is for La Crosse, and 90 is signed west for Austin. Austin's like the next town over. Why Austin? So here in the Rochester area, US 63 is going to be joining with US 52. So this 12th Street Bridge is the US 14 East, and sadly we have no access to US 14 East. But US 14 West is going to be groomed with 63 and 52. And here's the exit for US 14 West, and US 14 is signed for, I don't know how to pronounce that. Here is US 63 leaving US 52, and US 52 is going to continue heading north to St. Paul. In fact, here is a mileage sign right after we get out of the Rochester area, and we have St. Paul on the bottom sign, which is 69 miles away. Here in the St. Paul area, we Interstate 494, the ring road around both Minneapolis and St. Paul, and we have no obviously we have no control cities for 494. And then here we are meeting Interstate 94 and US Highway 10. Here in St. Paul, and we actually be concurrent with Interstate 94 for 350 miles. So we're going to be skipping that concurrency because Control City Freak himself already did Interstate 94, and I'm not going to go through that again. Here we are entering into North Dakota on Interstate 94. And here is US 52 leaving Interstate 94 all the way here in Jamestown, North Dakota, and we're going to be joining US 281. Here, US 52 is leaving US Highway 281 to head northwest with North Dakota Highway 200, and I'm actually going to be doing the Super 200 corridor very soon after I get through some of the other highways. And after that, we have a mileage sign, and Minot is on the bottom sign with 127 miles away. Here's US 52 leaving North Dakota Highway 200 to head northwest to Minot. Here we are in the Minot area, meaning US 2, and we're going to be concurrent with US 2 as we bypass the city of Minot. Here are meeting US Highway 83, which takes you into downtown Minot. And here is US 52 leaving US 2 to head north to Canada, while US 2 just continues west 2 into the oblivion. Here we are joining North Dakota Highway 5, and US 52 and 5 are going to be concurrent until we get to a certain point in North Dakota. In fact, here we are, US 52 is now going to be heading northwest to the Canada border, while North Dakota Highway 5 is again heading to who knows where. Here we are at the Canada border, and sadly we can't go any further, so that ends US 52 and moves on to the TheDerpHog the way it should be for US 52. The way it should be for US 52, northwest, I would start with Monk's Corner, just because Florence is a bit too far and it's signed directly from Charleston, and there's a faster way to get to Florence from Charleston. Then I'd definitely do Florence. Then Darlington because of US 401. And then Wadesboro because of US 74, because US 74 is actually a very major route in southern North Carolina. And then Salisbury because you meet Interstate 85. If this was a southeast video, then I'd miss Salisbury entirely, and Wadesboro. Then after Salisbury, I'm going to skip Lexington and just go straight to Winston-Salem, because everyone knows Winston-Salem. And then I'd do Mount Airy, not Pilot Mountain. Then I'd do Wytheville up until Interstate 77. And then I'd actually dual sign Wytheville and Fort Chiswell, and then do Bluefield after passing through Wytheville. And then I'll do Williamson out of Bluefield because the other towns are just way too small in West Virginia. And then north of Williamson, I'll do Huntington because that's the next major town that US 52 goes through. And then after Huntington, I'll do Ironton. And then after Ironton, I do Portsmouth of because of US 23. And then Aberdeen because of US 62 and US 68. And then Cincinnati from Aberdeen, and then Rushville from Cincinnati because there's a faster way to get to Indianapolis from Cincinnati, and it's not by taking US 52, so Rushville makes sense there. And then I'll definitely do Indianapolis after Rushville, and then I'll do Lafayette from Indianapolis, and then Kentland from Lafayette because of that one town that had like 2008 Street View. That doesn't work so good. And then I do Kankakee from Kentland because of Interstate 57 and the concurrency with US 45. And then definitely Joliet from Kankakee because Joliet is famous. And then Mendota from Joliet because of US Highway 34. And then Dixon because of meeting Illinois Highway 26 to get to Interstate 88. And plus Dixon is a fairly large place. And then I do Savannah because that's where that's where US 52 crosses the Mississippi into Iowa. And then Dubuque because it's a very famous city in northeastern Iowa. And then Dyersville because of splitting off from US 20 and tourist reasons. And then Rochester because it's Rochester, Minnesota, and apparently Minnesota does not like signing Rochester. And then I do St. Paul because that's where the capital is. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Who wouldn't sign that? And then Fargo because Fargo is a very major place in North Dakota. And that's where 94 goes through. And then Jamestown, that's because where 52 splits off from 94. And then Carrington is where 52 splits off from 281 to head northwest to Minot. And then Minot from Carrington. And then thank you all so much for watching my US 52 Northwest video. This took a while to make, and I was really hyped to do this video. And my next couple weeks is going to be working on the other half of US 52 and doing the X95 video and the X66 video for Halloween. So stay tuned for those videos, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.